Jennifer Drummond here with us. Jennifer is an absolute beast. Not only the host of the Seek Your Summit podcast, mom of 7 children, she is the only woman to have ever summited the 7 second summits in the world. I knew that you didn't just start climbing mountains and raising 7 kids. There had to be a backstory, and it's fascinating to get to know that. What was your early career?
He comes to me, he's like, Jen, you need to work at this company. You're expensive, and you can make really good money.
So she's always been expensive.
Always been expensive. I made more money than my parents did combined at this job.
Are you kidding me? That is not for everybody. They don't out-earn their parents at the tender age of, what are you at this point, 21?
And that business, like I still own today and manages over $1 billion in assets.
Wow.
And I was kind of checking the boxes, like not really thrilled about life, just going through the motions. And I had a car accident. I should have died. The police rebuilt the accident 50 different ways. It was not a scenario where they could build that I lived. And that really woke me up to, what are things that I want to do before I die? So I started making this huge bucket list. I realized in 2020, I was turning 40. On that list was climb a mountain, and I thought to myself, it's only gonna get harder as I get older. So I might as well do that now.
How many mountains have you summited to this day?
Probably at 30.
Wow, this is a selfish pursuit. You have 7 children. And what if you die on one of these mountains?
A few times, unfortunately, and it's one of these mountains that's very remote, like nobody climbs it. And at one point, my guide goes, pull out your phones. I want you guys to write a letter to your family. This is not gonna be good.
I think it took 8 weeks for most people to climb Everest, and you're like, I can't be away from my kids for that long. And you went and just reinvented the wheel.
Literally turned an 8-week journey into a 3-week journey, door to door. And I share that story because we all have obstacles. They are not allowed to be your stopping point.
You need to hear her story in full. Like I got to hear her story in full, but I'm all goosebumped out over here. Welcome to a very, 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 very special episode of the Real Mentors podcast. As always, REAL stands for Real Examples, Altering Lives. I'm your host, Sean Martin, and today I am blessed, honored, privileged, and a little giddy to have my good friend, Jennifer Drummond, here with us. Jennifer is an absolute beast, and I always say, don't judge a book by its cover, because Jennifer is not only the host of the Seek Your Summit podcast, but Jennifer is a mom of 7 children, Utah native, if I'm not mistaken. Michigan, by way of Utah now. But what's really, really remarkable about Jen's story, other than her absolute magnetic personality and smile, is that she is the only woman to have ever summited the 7 second summits in the world, which are the second highest peaks of the tallest mountains in the world. Correct me if I'm wrong. They are tougher than the actual highest summits in the world, where everybody's familiar with Everest. So I can't wait to dive into this one today. Jen, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. What a great intro.
My absolute pleasure. I didn't even have to go all the way to Utah to do this, which we were planning on, and it would have totally been worth the trip.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about growing up in Michigan and what your early days looked like before we get into all that other stuff that you're known for.
Yeah. So I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, or I have a brother and a sister that are younger than me. We grew up in Holland, Michigan, which is a conservative little community. I quickly learned that if I played sports, I didn't have to do homework or chores or different things like that. So I'm like, dishes, soccer. I'll take soccer all day long. Was big into sports my entire life. I somehow got the memo that if I made money, I wouldn't have life problems. So yeah, we can both laugh about that now. When I was younger, I was definitely seeking financial success. And then once I started having it, I realized, there's got to be more to this equation that I'm not figuring out. And just a student of life.
What were your early days like? You grew up with 2 siblings. You were a soccer player, specific to soccer, or did you play other sports?
I was a gymnast first, which I think is an awesome sport to start because you just get body awareness for everything. Got into sailing, played basketball, volleyball, a little bit of tennis. And then like my main sport was soccer. I played soccer in college.
Where'd you go to school?
SMU in Dallas, Texas for a little bit. And then I actually ended up transferring to Hope College in Holland, Michigan. I didn't love SMU, and they took all my credits at Hope. So I'm like, okay, I'll go there. And just liked the school. It was a smaller environment. I think that was better for my personality.
Did anything have to do with kind of coming back home or being more comfortable where you were from, or why so close to, where you came from?
I was like literally thinking I would just transfer there, regroup, and then go out east, like to Boston College or Boston University or something like that. But when I got there, they took all my credits. The classes were smaller. The teachers really got involved. And I'm like, you know what? This is better for me than these big schools and being one of 500. And so I just decided I was going to stay. They had summer school. And since I lived in the area, like I could take summer school. So I graduated from college in 3 years instead of 4. And it just worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your early career when you graduated? What did you do then?
Yeah. Okay. So this story's funny. I was a junior at Hope, and a friend of mine that was a senior had just taken a job as a financial advisor. And he comes to me, he's like, Jen, you need to work at this company. You're expensive and you can make really good money as a financial advisor.
So she's always been expensive.
Always been expensive. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let me interview. So I interview for this company. And they're like, we're ready to hire you. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not done with college yet. They're like, well, see how many credits you have left. So I go to the college and I'm like, hey, can I graduate? They're like, yes. If you take summer school this summer, we can get you out at the end of summer. And I'm like, okay. So then I go to my parents. I'm like, guess what? I got a job. And my parents are like, really? I'm like, yeah. They're like, are you sure you want to take it? Because you're pretty young. I'm like, you go to college to get a job. I have a job. Like, we should be celebrating. And parents are like, okay, but listen, if you take this job, you have to stay with that job for a year, no matter what.
Okay.
I'm like, of course I'm going to stay with this job for a year. What are you talking about? Like, why would I take the job if I was going to quit? So anyways, so fast forward, I graduate from school. I take a job. I show up on my first day of work early. And when I show up, this lady like takes me around the offices, shows me everything. And she's like, and here's the call center room and blah, 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 blah. And she's like, I'd probably sit in here for now. I'm like, okay. She's kind of shocked that I don't have an office at this point, but whatever.
They don't know who I am.
Yeah. I'm like, excuse me, I'm a financial advisor. So anyway, so like everybody files into the office and then we're sitting and I meet my manager. I'm like, hi, I'm Jen. I'm the new financial advisor. Where's my office? He's like, sweetheart, your office is in this call center room. Like, you're going to be calling. I'm like, no, I'm not call center. I'm financial advisor. And he goes, sweetheart, how do you think you build your book of business? I had never asked, like, I don't know. I didn't know I had a cold call. So all of a sudden, I have a phone book, and I'm supposed to smile and dial like 5 hours out of a 12-hour day. And the first 2 weeks of work, I go home every day sobbing. I've never heard no so many times in my life. Like, who does this crazy stuff? Blah, 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 blah. It was so bad that I called my college. I'm like, hey, this is Jenn Drummond. I graduated. I was kidding. I want to come back. I'm not graduating. And I'm like, no, honey, you can't just come in. Like, we can look at the semester or whatever, but the semester started and you got to be where you're at. And I'm like, well, I'm not calling my parents. That is not an option. So I went to Staples and I bought a calendar and I circled like 365 days later. I'm like, I just have to suffer through this job for a year. That's like my sentencing. And so when you sit there and you commit to the commitment of I have to be here for a year, that cold calling is terrible, but you realize I can leave every day and it can be terrible, or I can change the narrative. And so then I started gamifying it. And then I actually started getting decent at it. And then when my year was up and I was ready to quit, I realized I made more money than my parents did combined at this job.
Are you kidding me?
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to stay. Like, this is amazing. Like, I started getting the momentum that you needed to build a book of business and have success.
Who were your early influences there? Because that is not for everybody. I've done it since I was 17.
Oh, it's horrible.
It is horrible, but something clicked, and it doesn't click for most people because they don't out-earn their parents at the tender age of, what are you at this point, 21?
Yes.
Yeah. Who were your early influences there, and what are some of the things you took away from them?
Yeah. Well, I will say I'm hyper competitive. And so this company like knew the mousetrap, and I drank the Kool-Aid, and they put our names on the board. I was like, oh, no way is Ethan going to have his name above mine on that board. And like all my friends were still in college. So it wasn't like I had other options of things to do with my time. So I just like hooked, like I was in it. I'm like, I'm going to beat it. I'm going to be number one. And this is who I am. And who is this person to think they're going to beat me? And that attitude just allowed me to lock and load.
So listening to you, I know that sports is one of the best things that we can do as young adults to kind of stoke that competitive fire. However, not everybody's completely bought into that. You were early on. It translated into this Smile and Dial sales job, building your book of business. But who was your inspiration? Where'd you get that fire? Because is that something that you kind of just had, or was there someone in your family or close to you that inspired you? Or were you just a unicorn?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us are unicorns, right? There's different things that inspire us. For me, I was just driven by the fear of failure. And I knew that if I put the reps in, like the only way I would fail is if I stopped. And if I kept dialing, like eventually I would win. And I actually reverse engineered it. So once we kept stats on everything, right? So I'd put marks on how many dials I made. I'd put marks on how many yeses I got. And I realized if I made 100 contacts, I'd get 3 yeses. That 3 yeses would give me 1 client. That 1 client would maybe make me around $3,000, which then would convert everything to a $20 call. I'm like, okay, so if I'm just dialing this and I get $20 for this, like this is worth it. This is worth it. And so then I had to just frame it so that I put myself in power to be able to have the success.
Got you. So did you pursue that career? How long did you stay in that world?
Yeah. So I was in the financial service business for about 3 years at that company. And
so you didn't go back to school?
I did not go back to school. I stayed in the financial service business. And what happened is after being like the number 1 first year advisor, that second year I had a choice of what I wanted to do in the company. That was kind of the prize. And so the next year I studied different departments. So we had like an accounting department, a legal department, a mortgage department, an investment department. So I learned the different mousetrap of like, how do we help these different people and different things that we do? And then when it came back to go into business the third year, I realized, okay, I'm making a lot of revenue for this company, and there's things that I now am aware of that I wasn't aware of before. Maybe I'm better off going somewhere else. And so I ended up switching to Mass Mutual, which was an insurance company primarily. So I left that company, went to Mass, learned the insurance business. And the cool thing about Mass is that they had relationships with banks. And they offered like investment services for banks or keynote insurance for executives and things like that. Well, one of my clients was the CEO of a credit union. And so she and I were doing a review meeting. And in our review meeting, she said, you know what? We're going to start offering investment services to our membership because the SEC changed the law and now credit unions can offer this service. I'm like, well, if you're going to offer services, like I can be an investment advisor to all your people. I'm sitting here thinking like, if I had a well of people at a credit union and I didn't have to smile and dial, like I am in the green. Right. And so she's like, oh, I never even thought about it. Good idea. And so then I talked to Mass Mutual and said like, hey, do you have any options here? They're like, yes, we can help you, da-da-da-da-da. So I went in, pitched to the board at that credit union. It's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Oh, I like that.
That board selected me. So I got that credit union and I quickly realized like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I have all these tellers that can send me people and I'll give them like a gift card somewhere and oh, this is awesome. And the beauty of this was the second in charge at the credit union used to own a credit union marketing company. And he really took a liking to me because I had like that drive and that whatever. He's like, hey, Jen, there's going to be a credit union expo coming up. He goes, you should set up a booth and offer this service to other credit unions. I'm like, okay. He goes, because everybody with this new law change is going to be looking at adding these services.
Right.
I'm like, okay, perfect. So I like set up a booth. You know, I went to like a boat show and I looked at booths. I'm like, okay, that's what a booth looks like. So I'm like trying to figure out this booth. I set up a business called CU Financial Alliance for like credit union. And I go to this expo, and what was interesting is that credit unions, to be a member, you have to live, work, or worship in that area to be a member. Okay. So in the state of Michigan, which is like, this mitten, if you had a credit union member up in Traverse City, they weren't competing with a credit union down in Holland because they didn't live, work, or worship in that area. So all these credit union CEOs collected and shared ideas. And so it's kind of like the credit union industry against the banking industry, not credit unions against each other. So here I am, and I do this expo. I got 14 credit unions that weekend.
Wow.
14, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I thought my problem was going to be getting credit unions. My problem was getting advisors to represent ethically to work in those credit unions. And so this business like blew up. We started managing assets. The credit union got a percentage, I got a percentage, and the rep got a percentage. And that business, like I still own today and manages over $1 billion in assets.
Wow. So it's amazing when you ask the right questions because I didn't know this about you. And I knew that you didn't just start climbing mountains and raising 7 kids. There had to be a backstory. And it's fascinating to get to know that. I like to set up the story for how we got here. And I love to learn about my guests and my friends through conversation. So you're now in your mid-20s. You're absolutely crushing life. When do you have your first child?
26.
Okay, so right around the same time, you're doing all the things.
Everything, right? Like, because when you're in financial services, you realize, oh man, I want to retire young. I want to have kids young, like all this kind of stuff. And like time value of money. If I invest this, what's it going to be worth then? And how this all works. So I'm like, I'm having kids young. And the beauty of having kids young is that I wanted to be home with them. So then it forced me to hire myself out of a job. And so then all of a sudden, I'm not working in the business, I'm working on the business, which would only have had happened if I had something else pulling up my time that was more important to me.
And you are truly committed to your family. I know that. And that's going to bring us to your story, which you're more so known for, which was climbing these mountains and some of the amazing stories that I've been treated to. But you didn't just wake up one day and say, you know what, I want to go on this, once in a lifetime chase or this record. It kind of just morphed into it. But what was the catalyst for the mountain climbing?
Yeah. Okay. So I hire myself out of the financial service job. I'm like a mom of 7 kids, which is time consuming, as you can imagine, and everything else. But all of a sudden I find myself in a spot where my kids are in school all day long. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with this time? So originally I'm giving that time away to the school, to soccer practices, to train, like to help all this stuff. And I really lost me in that space. And I told myself, when my kids get out of the house, then I can come back to me, but this is the season I'm in. And I was kind of checking the boxes, like not really thrilled about life, but not disappointed, just going through the motions. Then I had a car accident. So I was driving home from a lost wallet. I get into a car accident. I should have died and thankfully didn't. The police rebuilt the accident 50 different ways. There was not a scenario where they could build that I lived, but here I am. And that really woke me up to that if then. Like, why am I waiting? Like, what happens if I don't get tomorrow? It's not promised. There's so many things I want to see, do, and experience in this world. I need to start doing that now. And in fact, if I start doing that now, I get to show my kids what it's like to love your life and be a mom and be a business owner and do all these things and really not look at life as a sentencing, but as this is like an honor, but like how awesome.
And how does it morph and why mountains? Now, I know how fortunate you were because I saw the car accident. Yes. And you are, to say lucky is not an understatement. I think the universe, God had something greater planned for you to inspire people. And that was amazing. And I think you said you walked home that same day.
Same day I got home. So that's bananas. But so then you have one of these life-altering experiences. You start doing inventory of your days and you start saying, okay, if this is my last year, month, week, day, what are things that I want to do before I die? So I started making this huge bucket list. Taste pasta in Italy, swim in the Great Barrier Reef, like climb a mountain. And I had this laundry list of things I wanted to do. Well, at the end of 2019, I realized in 2020 I was turning 40. I'm like, I need to do something on my list for my 40th birthday to launch this next decade. And on that list was climb a mountain. And I thought to myself, it's only going to get harder as I get older. So I might as well do that now. And what a great way to launch that decade is to like climb a mountain to read it. And so I was climbing a mountain named Ama de Blam. And 2020 happens and COVID enters the scene. And now I'm not climbing anything and I'm homeschooling a whole bunch of little people.
Oh, boy, the twists and turns.
The twists and turns. I'm like, really? Really? Like all of a sudden I'm allowed to live and I get to homeschool now? Like, come on, universe.
And since then, because I don't want to ruin the story. But how many mountains have you summited to this day?
To this day now, probably at 30.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know you just recently came from Denali.
Denali, yes.
And it didn't go as planned.
No.
And this was the first time, as having you as a friend, I got to see one of these adventures unfold. And you would check in, I guess, once a day, more or less, when you got some cell service or you came back down to base
Device.
camp.
You have like a Garmin device that feeds off a satellite. You don't have any cell out there.
Got you. So you are posting and we get the bad news because we're all following you.
Yeah.
We really are. And obviously we're playing for you because these are no small feats. You can lose your life and you've seen that happen to some of your teammates. And you didn't summit this time.
Yeah.
But I wanted to touch on that because you still were grateful, even though I know you were disappointed as all hell. First of all, you going back?
I don't know yet. Okay. Isn't that interesting?
No.
For me, it's interesting because here's the deal. So I'm climbing on with the Blom. That gets elevated to Everest. And then my coach elevates that to setting a world record. And when I decided to set that world record, I realized this is a purpose-driven mission. I am supposed to do this. The divine has asked me. I'm doing this to show the world that we can do ourselves and the other roles that we have. And I want to be this light for women everywhere.
Right.
Don't self-sacrifice. You are showing your children what it means to be happy, and only you can do that. And so I'm very driven by that. Well, when I file with Guinness World Records, hey, guess what? A couple more mountains and you could have another world record. And I'm oh, I should do that. I'm only a few away. And so I go climb Aconcagua, so now I only have 2 left. And I go to Denali, and I climb Denali. My guide gets sick, so he has to be helicoptered off, which means my expedition is done, which I'm throwing the pouty fit to myself for a few minutes, right? I mean, I'm allowed to be there. And then I'm sitting with myself, and I'm man, this feels really ego-driven. There was nothing ego about my last pursuit. But this second, world record, what does it shift? No one cares that you have 2 after you have 1. And here I am, missing time with my kids, doing this thing. And it was just one of those moments of, maybe this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And I have been sitting with that for a little bit. And I'm I don't know if climbing Denali is going to give me any bigger advantage to help others than where I am without somebody in Denali.
I'm going to ask you a tough question. You can smack me in the face later if you don't like it. But have you ever gotten the question of, or the statement wow, this is a selfish pursuit? Because you touched on ego. Mm-hmm. You have 7 children. Mm-hmm. And what if you die on one of these mountains? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Has anybody, I'm sure you've been asked that question.
Everybody asks that question. And here's the thing, for the first series, the second summits and the mountains that I would climb to get acclimatized to be able to go do those mountains, which is why there's more than just the 7, there was no ego. So when someone said that to me, I could honestly, wholeheartedly stand in my power and be I can see from your perspective, but from my perspective, I know the intention of this mission and I know the significance of it, and I'm here to serve. When this Denali one came up and the things didn't go as I went and I sat with myself, I can't say that anymore. And so if I can't say that anymore, maybe I'm not supposed to be here, and it's okay to say, just kidding.
I appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty. You're such an inspiration to all of us in that room. You're such an inspiration to anybody who hears your story. And I'm purposely not going into too many of the details because you need to hear her story in full, like I got to hear her story in full, because I've heard the story, and then I heard the pieces. Oh, she did this thing, and then we got to sit with you at the Derby at dinner, and we got to hear about the tribe, the lost tribe that was trying to eat you and kill you. And I do want to go into that story because it's cool as hell. But I also want to ask before we get there, you're an inspiration, not only to women, but to anybody who hears this story. But who are some of your biggest inspirations as women that I hear somebody here in front of me that says, fuck that, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't crush just like any man. Where does that come from? Who were the early inspirations for you?
Yeah, my grandmas. I came from a lineage of powerhouse women. And so my grandma on my dad's side, 13 children. Her husband died when he was 40. So she had 13 kids, 11 survived under the age of 18. The youngest was 2. And she was a beauty queen. She played basketball. And then when her husband died, she never got remarried, started a business, and just freaking loved her family like I've never seen someone love their family. And then my mom's side, I have a grandma who was just this independent person that had hobbies that she cared about, that she never let go, from collecting dolls to doing garage sales, like all that kind of stuff. And to me, it was like, I remember climbing this mountain in Antarctica. And when I was in Antarctica, I was like, man, how lucky am I to be here in this part of the world at this stage? Like, if my grandma wanted to do this, not an option. Right. And it's like, I have to do this, because if I do this, it's an option for me. And what does that set the table for our daughters that I don't even know, but I know that pursuing these things creates possibility that I can't even like fathom how it unfolds. Right. And so when you have these like amazing women that were limited by society, and you have this ability to do something and break some of those limits or like ceilings, like it's my obligation to do that, like my responsibility to do that.
Right. And I think you have such great examples, and I hadn't heard that before, but I know there's no way that you just came up with these things and said, I'm going to go for it. I mean, which would have been remarkable, but I know that there was a path kind of laid out for you in terms of, if they could do this in a generation where it was not welcome, who am I to not do that? So kudos to grandmas. Are they still around by any chance?
No, they both, actually they both passed, and my mom's side passed this year.
So they got to see you do some of these things.
Oh, my grandma, like when I was on the Good Morning America, there was not a happier human than my grandma. I'm like, I don't care if I'm on the Good Morning America show for me. I care because my grandmas are in their nursing homes, and it is like the biggest thing ever. And so to know how happy that made them was like the best gift ever.
They must have been bragging on you all day.
So cute, right? Yeah, watch out, bingo room. My granddaughter's on Good Morning America.
And not for any small feat or for some run-of-the-mill reason. You are a trendsetter. And how has this inspired your little ladies?
Yeah. You know what's fun? Which I don't even know if I thought about it at the time. But so I went into the kids' school. I talked to them about setting Everest-like goals and what goes into that. And now I'm known as the Everest Mom in Park City, because we're not a huge community. And their friends will come over. And they'll be like, oh, your mom's the mom that climbed Mount Everest. And my girls will be like, yeah. And they're like, do you ever want to do it? Like, if I want to, my mom will take me, and she'll take you too. And so it's so cool, because these kids think of Everest as this huge goal, and we all have an Everest-like goal. And because you did it, they believe that they can. And then they know, like, hey, my mom will help you if you want to. And I'm like, yes, I will, girl. I'm here for all of it. And that's probably the biggest reward.
That has to be. I mean, just me hearing about it, I'm all goosebumped out over here. That's just... How old is your oldest, and how old is your youngest? Just so we have an idea of the spread.
Yeah. No, so I'm slammed in there. So I have an 18-year-old, and then my twins, which are the girls, are 12 and a half, and they're the youngest.
Okay, so wow, you go at everything, and you go at everything hard.
I believe in abundance, and we just go for it.
7 summits, 7 kids. What was that? 8 years?
Yes,
pretty much. Not even.
No, my kids were 6 years and 2 months from first to last one.
Okay, not to be politically incorrect, but we call those Irish twins, and you had like 6 sets.
I just kept doing it. I'm like, this is working. Let's go.
That is crazy. So tell us a little bit about the mountain climbing and how it pertains to challenging you, because just like we talked about, life is a gradual climb. Mm-hmm. We don't just shoot up, right? You didn't go to Everest first. Mont Blanc, I don't want to ruin the first mountain's name. And you rode through this, and it was kind of a gradual progression toward harder and harder peaks.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So when we decided to set out we mapped out all the mountains I needed to climb. and we would identify what the easy ones were and what skills I needed to have and how they put together. Mind you, we're climbing after COVID, so some things are directed by what countries are open, what countries are not yet. And like any of us setting a big goal, you build momentum, because that momentum gives you the speed that you need to get to the next one. And so when I failed a mountain, like the first mountain I failed was K2, then immediately we went into Russia. I went to climb a mountain there so that I wasn't sitting on that loss for too long. Right. So it's like, okay, let's get another win. And we get another win, then we change that energy and we change the flow of what our story is. And so it was just really being aware of, okay, when do I need momentum to get a win? And when do I need, like, what does this look like if I don't succeed? Because I'll tell you, when I didn't succeed Mount Logan the first time, I had to wait an entire year to climb that thing again. That is a long year of not having any wins to really visually show. So I started climbing other mountains just to keep the momentum and the spirit high and be like, here's where I'm at. And so anybody that's building anything, right, it's very similar to climbing a mountain. Like, what are you doing to give you checkpoints to build momentum and to say, yes, I've had success, and you can build from that space?
That's beautiful, because I find the same, and, you know, we share the Zenith group in common, and that's what that is for me. But then, you know, that's only 3 times a year.
Right.
And I found that at the last one, I am married to the juice, the connection, seeking out the challenge and the growth and the information and the light bulbs and the switches going off and all the things that come with being around such amazing people. But I also realized I needed to inject that more. So I made a commitment to doing something monthly, mastermind-ish, where I need to travel. And then I took it a step further. I'm going to bring the family. And I think that speaks to, you've translated your journey into how others can apply it into their own. Mm-hmm. Now, you speak a lot to corporate settings. Mm-hmm. Is it male? Is it female dominant? Who's your audience?
It's really both, to be honest with you. I'm hired a lot when companies are trying to go from vision to victory, because I started with never sleeping in a tent to setting this world record. And so what's involved in that? I also talk a lot to like sales teams that have these setbacks, because I didn't summit every single mountain. And on some of the mountains, they're so big that when you climb to a point on the mountain, and then you have to climb all the way back down to base camp. Right?
Let's talk about that, because that was a revelation for me, but the metaphor is perfect.
Yeah.
Now, Everest was probably the toughest as far as ping-ponging between acclimation.
Yes.
So your lungs, your body, just to bring everybody up to speed, when you're climbing at altitude, the air is thinner. Your body, I believe there's a process going on with the red blood cells being generated. Thank you for schooling me, because I had no idea, but I sound pretty good right now.
You do.
Thank you. And talk a little bit about that, because it pertains to life.
It does.
And I love how you've taken, you know, that approach to teaching people. It's a very physically, you're drawing up the picture of the physical challenge and the way your body acclimates physically. Obviously, there's a mental component to that too. And you're applying it to everyday life and everyday people who are in a situation that they want to excel at, but don't necessarily know how. So walk us through Everest and how that whole process works. And I also want you to touch on the fact that you were like, I think it took 8 weeks for most people to climb mountain Everest, and you're like, I can't be away from my kids for that long. And you went and just reinvented the wheel. So I want to focus on Everest, because, you know, there's so many stories, but Everest is the big one. In terms of the name. Yeah,
of course. Everybody knows Everest. Most of the other mountains I've climbed, they're like, what? Whatever. But so the interesting thing about Everest first is this acclimatization rotation, which I didn't really understand because I hadn't climbed a mountain that big to have this thing play into effect. But I literally thought you got to base camp, and then it just took you 8 weeks to get to the top. Like, that's what I thought happened. And when I got there, I realized you get to base camp, and then you climb to Camp 1, which is hard, it's frustrating, you're exhausted, because when you get to Camp 1, it's this lack of oxygen and your body doesn't want to work. And you get to Camp 1, and then you go all the way back down to base camp. And I literally looked at my team, I'm like, you guys can go back. I'm not giving up this ground. Are you kidding me? Like, who goes down after we got up to here? Like, are you nutty? They're like, no, you have to go down. And you go down because that stress causes your body to physiologically change, make more red blood cells, And so now, with that more red blood cells, you can climb higher up the mountain. And guess what? Getting to Camp 1 is now easier. And now the struggle goes from Camp 1 to Camp 2. I'm like, well, I'm surely from Camp 2, we're going to just park here and then go up. And they're like, oh, no, going all the way back down to base camp. And there's not one thing in your mental, emotional, or physical body that feels right. Like, it feels so wrong, so violating, so like, F you, this is not fair. But that's what your body needs to have success. And when you draw out and you look at that, and you're like, man, isn't that life? Like, yes, we would love to just have it be this vertical climb and here we are and life's good. But a lot of times we need to climb down to climb up. And when you're struggling in your personal life or your business life, like, that's a sign to stop climbing, come back to the kitchen, come back to the boardroom, analyze what's going on. What did you learn? What are you dealing with? What do you need to do to integrate those lessons to be able to go up the mountain? And so I think that, like, climbing is such an analogy we can all use. We call it acclimatizing. So at my house, when somebody's struggling, they're like, I'm acclimatizing, Mom. I'm acclimatizing. I'm like, yes, you are. And then,
I'm not letting you anywhere near my daughter. I'm kidding. You're going to meet her today.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, this goes on, it's not base camp to first, second camp. This is how many camps before 4. You actually get to go?
Yeah, so you go up to 1, down, up to 2, down, up to 3, down, and then you go up to 4. 4 is in the death zone, and you actually don't have to go down at this point because you're on oxygen. And then you go from 4 to the summit, and then you start working your way back down the mountain. But now I remember what we talked about. So one of the interesting things about climbing Everest is it typically takes 8 weeks.
There you go.
I didn't have 8 weeks to climb Everest. Like, I have 7 children at home. Like, I can't be gone for 8 weeks. I wish I had the luxury that I could, but I don't want to be gone from them that long, and they don't want to be gone from me that long. And the interesting thing was, instead of that being a stopping point, I was like asking people and doctors and different things. I'm like, what are my choices? What are my choices? Like, there has to be something. And so one of the doctors was like, actually, there's a company in New York called Hypoxico that makes oxygen deprivation tents. So you can put this tent on your bed, sleep in it, and it'll mimic the lack of oxygen. So you'll be able to pre-acclimatize at home and not spend so much time on the mountain. I'm like, okay, amazing, let's try it. And so I bought this tent, I set it up at my house. It was like the most crazy thing to sleep in every single night, but it literally turned an 8-week journey into a 3-week journey, door to door. And I share that story is because we all have obstacles. They are not allowed to be your stopping point. They are allowed to be the point where you get curious and come up with a solution that you don't know of yet.
And prior to this, had this been done, or is this something you worked specifically with the company to kind of come up with for this particular mission of climbing Everest?
So they have these tents for like NFL teams. So they're like, maybe they're from Florida and they're going to go play in Denver.
Right.
And so there's 5,000 feet. So they're like, okay, how do I get these athletes ready to play at that level? They weren't really experienced with it at the Everest size level, right? So like, hey, we've had success here. We're not sure what it's going to look like, but we're willing to try it. I'm like, I'm here for it.
That is pretty awesome, but you definitely don't take no for an answer.
No is not an option.
That is for sure. And I believe it was also on Everest that you came up with the name that we know you by,
yes,
which is Mountain Barbie.
Of course. Look.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I just would imagine she climbed these mountains and she presents like Barbie, so that's how it came about, but it wasn't. It was specific to your trip to Everest.
Yes.
Tell us a little about that.
So this story in particular, I'm like climbing and I realize I'm on Everest for so long that we're going to shower. And if we're going to shower, that means I'm going to have to wash my hair. And to dry my hair takes days if I don't have a hair dryer. And I kind of like my hair because it allows me to feel feminine and own who I am. And it's a big part of who I identify as. And so I talked to my coach. I'm like, what do I do? He's like, I don't know. We're going to have to find out if somebody's going to let you do something to solve that problem. And I'm like, okay. So he's like, let's start calling companies and ask. So I call this first company. I'm like, hi, I'm Jen. I'm interested in climbing Everest. I was wondering if I could bring a hairdryer. And this first company's like, what? A hairdryer? No, cut your hair. Like, why would you need a hairdryer? You'll be fine. Don't bring a hairdryer. I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to work. So I call another company and I'm like, hi, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, yeah, I think you could probably use the generator once a week and that should be fine. I'm like, yeah, I don't need to wash my hair more than once a week when I'm on the mountains. That's fair. That works. I'm like, well, I'm just going to call some others just to make sure. And so this third company I call, I'm like, hi, here's my situation. I'm like, well, if you're going to dry your hair, do you need a mirror? And I'm like, yes, I need a mirror. Like, amazing. If you could anticipate that need here, I can't even imagine what you're going to anticipate on the mountain. I'm going to go with you. Right? It's kind of like when you go take your car to get an oil change and they only fix the oil change and you leave and it's like, now you need new wipers and everything. And they never told you that until you run into a problem. And I love people that are proactive and anticipating what's going on. So anyways, so I'm like, okay, perfect. Well, life has it that there's a company in Utah that makes solar batteries. And they heard I was climbing Everest, and somehow the hair dryer story like got out to them. And they're like, hey, we have a solar powered battery that will power your hair dryer. If you want to bring that over there, you're welcome to leave it with the team so they have solar power for future expeditions and don't have to run the generator. I'm like, oh, great. Now I got to dry my hair and be like globally friendly. This is amazing. Like, I'm totally here for it. Which was a total bugger to get that battery over there because batteries don't fly very nicely. But anyways, it all worked out. And I'm at base camp. I take my shower and I'm going to dry my hair. I'm in my tent. So no one needs to know that I'm drying my hair. Like, let's just keep that to myself. And it doesn't work. I'm like, what is not working right now? They're like, oh, it needs solar power. So like I try to run the battery outside my tent and I'm trying to blow dry my hair and I'm like squished against the tent because the cord isn't long enough and my face is like pressing and it like still isn't really working. It would like go for a second and then it would die. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's not enough sun here. I'm like, forget it. I'm just going to deal. No big deal. Well, my Sherpa comes around. He's like, hey, we're going up the mountain tonight because you kind of go up at night for the safety of the climb. And I'm like, my hair's soaking wet. He's like, you brought a hair dryer? I'm like, it won't work. And so he's like, well, you just have to do it over there. I'm like, over there is the middle of the frickin' base camp. Like, everybody in this whole world is going to see me. He's like, I can try to hide you. I'm like, how are you going to hide me?
Just be out there with a towel.
Totally. It's like, I can bring a towel. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I'm like debating with myself. I finally go over there. I set up my beauty salon, for lack of better words. And I'm out there drying my hair. Of course, within seconds, they're like, the Americans over there drying her hair. Mountain Barbie. And I'm like, so embarrassed. I'm trying to hide. I can't believe this is my story. You know, because you want to prove yourself as a female that you're capable of climbing. Well, anyways.
But you want to be in your feminine at the same time.
Same time. Like, listen, Mount Everest is a female mountain. I'm letting you know. And I got to show up for her and respect her. And if I look good, she understands. And whatever. I get to the top of Everest. We summit. We have success. We get back to Kathmandu. And everybody's celebrating. And I had a few people come up to me and say, thank you. I'm like, thank you? What are you talking about? They're like, thank you for taking care of your needs and standing up for what you wanted, because it gave me permission to ask for things that I needed that I was afraid to ask for because this is such a man's environment. Right. I'm like, girl, if all it took me drying my hair at base camp for you to find your voice, I will do it every single camp. I am here for you. And so before the Barbie movie came out, I became known as Mountain Barbie.
Wow, so good. Did you bring your solar-powered battery and your dryer to Denali as well?
I did not. I left that battery in Nepal.
What do you do now?
Yeah, well, like if I'm on expeditions that aren't that long, then I don't need to do it.
Got you.
Yeah.
And how long was Denali?
Denali ended up being 14 days.
Okay.
But they don't have you, like, so at Everest Base Camp, it stays. At Denali, you kind of move up camps and then those become your new base camp.
Right.
And so then you're really conscious of weight on Denali, where Everest Base Camp, you don't have to be as conscious as weight, but once you go up the mountain, you do.
There's Sherpas there.
Yeah.
So many tales and dangers.
Yeah.
What is the closest that you personally, because I know you've experienced your partners losing their lives.
Yeah.
What was the closest that you personally came to death on one of these adventures?
Oh, a few times, unfortunately. But one of them real scary. I was on Mount Logan. So Mount Logan is the second highest point in North America. It's located in Canada. And it's one of these mountains that's very remote. Like, nobody climbs it. So you're the only team. Like, there's not another team where, hey, I forgot something, let's borrow it from these guys, right? Mount Logan doesn't allow Sherpas. They don't allow, like, you have to be a climber supporting yourself.
Very Canadian of them.
Yes, very Canadian. Thank you. And so we got up to Camp 3. And when we were at Camp 3, you're at 16,000 feet. to get to Camp 4, you have to go over 18,000, come back down to 16,000. Then you go to Camp 5, then you go all the way up to 20. So it has this like unique little point in the middle. Well, the point in the middle of 18, once you get on the other side of that, there's no rescue. So like you have to know that the weather's good to go to the other side because helicopters can't make it and get you. And so we're at this Camp 3, we're waiting because the weather's not cooperating. And the storm that comes in is way worse than we expected. And it's pulling on the tent, and it's blowing snow, and it's pulling on the tent, and we're a couple days into it, and then it gets really bad. And so in the middle of the night, we're unburying the tent, right? So you have to pull all the snow away. You can't rip the tent, so you can't really use a shovel because if you rip the tent, your safety's gone and you're dead. And so we're dealing with this, and at one point, my guide goes, pull out your phones. I want you guys to write a letter to your family just in case this goes bad tonight. He goes, this is not going to be good. So you pull out your phone, you start writing messages to everybody that you know. So if they find your phone, like you have something to tell them, and you're in all of your gear. So we're in our snowsuits, in our boots, we're in our sleeping bag, we're in everything because if the tent goes, then you're hoping that you're bundled up enough to survive. And that whole night it is just like, I can't believe I'm in this situation. Why am I here? You're mentally counting the steps to this crevasse that was over that way, that if you could fall into that crevasse, there's been enough snow, it'll be probably soft enough to catch you, and that crevasse will keep you from the wind and you might have a chance of living. So you're like mentally playing all these things out. And luckily the tent did rip, but it ripped in the vestibule side, not where we were. And we came out okay. That next day, we had to go down because we ran out of food because we were there for so long that we weren't anticipating. We go down to get food. There's 3 of us on the team. One of us gets frostbite so bad that they have to be helicoptered off. But when we got back up to our tent, the helicopter's like, we can't come. The weather's too bad. So this person has frostbite damage, is one of my good friends, is sitting with us for 24 hours. Finally, they come, they have to heli vacuum off, so they long line them. So they drop this screamer suit that we have to zip my friend into, and then they lift him off the mountain and fly for a few miles till it's low enough so they can put him in the helicopter. And it was just one of those expeditions that you're like, wow, like that was close. And writing those letters to my family, like it still can choke me up.
What changed after that? Because I've been given that assignment through, events that I've gone through, and, we go to a cemetery and we write a letter to our families.
Yeah.
But you were doing it like for real.
For real.
Did anything shift at that point, or what were some of the biggest aha moments or takeaways from there that, kind of changed you, if any?
Yeah. I apologized, right, to my kids. I'm like, listen, I'm sorry that I'm gone because I promised you I'd be home. And at the same time, like, I love you and we're here to live. And if there's one thing you can do for me for the rest of your life is to push boundaries, question your limits, get out there and experience life as much as you can, because I died doing that, and that's an honorable death.
I need a second.
Yeah.
Only because I live for my children.
Yeah.
And I just commend you because you are willing to some extent, give your life to set that example. Mm-hmm. And I think that brings my other question with people judging you full circle. That's how powerfully you believe in what you're doing or what you were doing. What's changed since then? Because you said this last trip to Denali was a little bit of an aha moment for you as well, that you weren't maybe doing it for the same reasons. What's next? What's next for Mountain Barbie?
Yeah. So the biggest difference was like, I really feel my 7-second journey was divine. Like I was serving God, and this was my mission, and this is why I was here. And so I know I don't get to choose when I leave, but I get to choose how I live. And so I knew by doing that mission, like if I died in that pursuit, that was what was supposed to happen. And I just had to have that big of a faith. When I did this second climb of Denali, I was like, I don't have that feeling. And now it's like, he doesn't need me to do this. He needs me to do something else. And what he needs me to do is to take those lessons and remind other people that are chasing their mountains and doing their things that they can do it. And I can help them get there because I've been in the darkest of dark, and I'm here to serve. And so for me, it's now about serving the masses and taking these experiences and sharing those stories so they can find that story in them and get to the top of their mountain.
It just hit me why we connect. And one of the reasons is obviously just personalities and energy, but it's also just what you said. So I have a belief that, you know, God has put me through all these things, and the attention and the energy was focused on the family, and just as yours was and still is. But then we also come to a point when we realize that we are special only in the regard that we're able to carry more on our shoulders than maybe some people. And we find it to be our duty.
Her duty.
To go and share those reserves that we've been blessed enough to have, and go share them with the world, right? So, you know, you've been through the fire. I just got welled up because it never gets old. And then I'm always learning something new about you. So I think it's our responsibility, and I think we're on the path, and we feel the same way you felt like your first journey of the 7 seconds was divine. Now you've shifted it. This is divine. And you're going to be able to impact so many lives, but with a story. And I think we shared the same about my story. I've been put through all this, although I didn't put myself through it. It was kind of the world put me through it. You put yourself out there.
But a lot of us do put ourselves through it, right? Like we want this thing, or we see this thing, and we just are like, no. And when you pay for that, it's a different level, right? Like I was on the side of these mountains. I'm like, I paid to be here. I could be on the beach. Like, what's wrong with me?
Private on the beach, like nobody around. You can do whatever you want.
Like, what am I doing? And you just are there because you're like, you know what? I need to be through this fire and come out the other side, because for all the people that are in the fire right now, I need to show them a way out.
So we talked about your near-death story.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your, I guess, most cool story from one of your adventures, or something that you take away that we can actually leave a little less heavy with.
Yeah. You know, like, here's what's fun. I was climbing Ama de Blam, which is my first mountain. And I didn't have social media before this, because I thought social media was bad and blah, 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 blah. And
Ditto.
like, finally, so many people were asking me questions. I'm like, I can't keep up with this. So I'm going to have social, so that if you want to know what's going on, go check that out and stop calling me. I mean, not to be rude, but that's kind of where I was. Well, there was this girl who had always wanted to climb Ama de Blam, and she got cancer and she couldn't climb it. And so she found out that I was climbing it, and she connected with me, and she's like, I am cheering you on. I am so excited. Like, please tell me everything about it, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm like communicating and telling all these things, and I get to Ama de Blam, I get to Nepal, and I find prayer flags. I'm like, I'm going to hike these prayer flags to the top of this mountain. I'm going to send them to this girl when I get back. And so I'm like, the entire climb, I'm climbing for this girl, which gets me out of my own way, which when things get hard, I'm like, but I don't have cancer, right? Compared to what is hard. And so like, I kept like, I get to be here. She doesn't. I am so lucky. Like, I'm going to climb, I'm going to climb, I'm going to climb. It was like the happiest climb, because I was climbing for someone else. I get these prayer flags. I get them blessed by a lama. They get to the top of the mountain. I come back to the United States. I mailed them to her. They're hanging in her room, right? Blah, 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 blah. She passes 3 months later.
Wow.
Her husband reaches out to me, and he's like, I want you to know she's buried with those prayer flags. And like, that was the best gift that you gave to my family and to her, and I can't thank you enough. And I share this story with everybody listening, because when we share our journey out in the public with each other, we are affecting people in ways we don't even know. And what a privilege is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jenn, I just want to say thank you for coming out, for sharing your story. There's so much more to the story, and I want you to definitely just immerse yourself in that. Tell us a little bit more about the book, the speaking engagements, and obviously how they can find you.
Yeah. So JennDrummond.com, double N on Jenn. I'm big on LinkedIn. That's probably my biggest platform. So reach out to me there. Check out the website. If you need a speaker, I'm your girl. Happy to support anything you're doing.
Yeah, and she really gets into the nitty-gritty of some of these tales, which will absolutely inspire your team. So I just want to thank you for always inspiring me, and I can't wait to see what's next. It's been an absolute pleasure, my love. Thank you so much. I love you too. Thank you so much for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Real Mentors podcast. We'll have all of Jenn's information in the links. And as always, let's get it.